Goodness, right?
Beautiful. Yep. All right, we're live on YouTube, and Susan Michelle, this mic is all yours.
Hi, this is Susan Michel. I am here in Western Massachusetts. It is great to be here as always. I am the author of Surrender to Joy From Suicide to Serenity. I teach the transformational truth of A Course in Miracles, which we are all here to study, to learn, to embody the knowledge of. And again, this morning I've been listening to Course in Miracles on Audible, and it's just so beautiful. It's my 35th year of listening to it. And when I really can understand the content, I am just as passionate, even more passionate about the book today as when I first found it 35 years ago. And my good friend and soul sister, Myrna, has been studying it for, I think, equally as long. Myrna is in Boca, Florida. How are you, Myrna?
It's good to see you, Susan. Good to see everyone. What could what could be bad, right?
Myrna is the author of Private Lessons with Jesus, which I love, 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 from A Course in Miracles, which is a wonderful companion to A Course in Miracles workbook, along with 5 other books. But I bring up that one because it's so analogous to A Course in Miracles, and I use it often. Thank you for writing that book, Myrna. You channeled the words of Jesus.
Yes, it was an amazing year that I spent with my brother, Jesus, and I got to know him better, and I believe he got to know me better. The connection was amplified during that year, and if anything, it lifted my spirits. It was really for me, that book. It just illuminated every time I would get into another lesson. um, I would wait, and as I started to roll along with the words and the thoughts and the feelings, I was always uplifted. So it was a wonderful, wonderful experience. And I love writing my other books. In fact, I'm writing another one now. It's murder mystery. I haven't even talked about that one. And the reason I bring that up is that my husband Charlie handled a murder mystery years ago. The name of his book was Twisted Confessions. So now I decided to take that book, the story, and turn it into a fictional murder mystery. So his book was called Twisted Confessions. My book is going to be called Deceptive Intentions. But I'm enjoying it. But I bring this up because I do feel him with me. When I'm going through the book, because I'm plagiarizing, the story. Although it's my own juice that I'm putting into it as well, but it's mingling with his. And I really get that, I see him while I'm doing this. So the body never dies. It just continues to move upward and onward. Hi, Gloria, and how you doing, sweetheart? How's
Great.
everything?
Great. I'm
Good.
so glad to be here and grateful to be here with both of you sisters. And I'm grateful to be in my joy today. And I mentioned twice, Susan, your book because I really don't think it could be a more perfect title. And it's always what I teach, but not in those words. I'm always talking about being in your joy and being wholly joyous. And today I mentioned it twice that all we have to do is surrender to that joy. And I'm so grateful for that. So, of course, I love your book.
Yes. I
Yeah,
love
when I was listening
Susan's, I
to
love your candor in that book, Susan. You talk about your own history, and I just wanted to mention that. It's a beautiful book. I loved
thank
it.
you. Thank you, Myrna. Thank you, Gloria. And when I was listening to, again, A Course in Miracles today on Audible, Jesus specified that the word love and joy can be used interchangeably because when we are at peace within ourselves, when we are in a mindset based on unconditional love, we are joyful. So joy and love are synonymous, which is beautiful. I think that the name of my book kind of got downloaded to me, because I think in order to attain that state of perfect joy, we need to surrender to a power greater than ourself, but that we are a part of. We need to surrender to our higher self. We need to surrender to God. We are completely dependent on God, and in that dependence lies our true power. So beautiful when you really embody those words, not just intellectually, but in our heart. When we can embody the words of A Course in Miracles, it's so transformational. So I will start with the introduction of my book, because that has a tendency to get our juices flowing, I believe. What I write in my introduction is, my passion is God. God is love and joy and beauty. He is all that is good in the world. Everything else is our own miscreation. When we are filled with joy, we are connected to God. When we are not joyful, we have lost our connection to all that is real. This is my message. It can be clarified with 3 simple words: surrender to joy. There is nothing to find. All we need to do is surrender. There is nothing to find in this world, because there is no world. And that goes very well with the lesson of the day. Today is January 31st. Lesson 31, subject line states, I am not the victim of the world I see. We are never a victim of the world that we see, because we are creating the world that we see. You know, it's such a beautiful truth to remember. Thoughts, anyone?
I
I
just
like that. Go
go
ahead.
ahead. Oh, no, go ahead, Myrna.
Just, yeah, I'm not a victim of the world I see, and we have to really let that penetrate before we can really be peaceful. Because when we're feeling separated, we feel like victims. So by allowing the truth within us to surface, um, you realize that, definitely never a victim of the world I see. I think of Jesus, who proved it by going to the cross and never feeling or making himself to be a victim. And I got a lot from that, that feeling that he did so much to prove it. I mean, what more could he do but say, I'm not even a body, I'm not a victim, I'm not a body. And the fact that he wasn't a victim when he expressed his love, even though he was being crucified, there was such an intense message in that. So the fact that I can read the Course in Miracles, connect with him within the Course, and also know um, what his roots were. And it's just an incredible thing. And, so again, I think Jesus proved that I'm never a victim of the world I see. I just wanted to, bring that up.
Very well said, Myrna. Glorian?
Yeah, I absolutely love that, Myrna. Thanks for sharing that. And once we recognize that, when we give up that idea of victimization consciousness, we're empowered. We're empowered with what I am. I just wanted to say here, this was good. Dove put into the chat, yes, Susan, there is no world. And once we recognize there's nothing outside of the one mind of God. So there is no world, there are no bodies, and not for one moment does the concept of what we think we are exist. So we're doing this to ourselves. It's a false mind that we're accepting that is keeping us from, as Susan opened, with the synonyms for oneness and beingness, which would be love, joy, peace, and grace, all of these beautiful words that we use as symbols to describe the experience of the oneness and the isness and the beingness that I am. And when you were speaking before, Susan, about, surrendering to joy, once we recognize that the surrender is the ego and the joy is the experience of the higher self, the Holy Spirit. And that's what does the purification. The ego doesn't purify itself. It surrenders. It surrenders so that the flow, the Christ, can come in and do the healing for us. And it's such an important principle to, in the 50 miracle principles where he says purification must come first. But the purification, the ego won't purify itself because that's what it is. And it continues to keep itself alive through fear and guilt. So when we recognize that, we have to surrender to the joy. We let go of that ego and allow true perception to purify us. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah, I love what you both said. I mean,
Dove has his hand up.
oh, he does. Yay. Dove.
All right. Hi, everybody.
Hi, Dove.
I want to continue on the idea that there is no world, which happens to be in lesson 132, which is my birthday lesson. I loosed the world from all that I thought it was. But this morning I came upon, and I shared this earlier when Karen and Michel was on, and Len. Uh, and what that is, we talk about guilt a lot, and we know that guilt is not good. But I realize that guilt comes when I see things as either good or bad. And good or bad is like opposite sides of the same coin. Uh, you or me, us or them, good or bad. So there's a division. And in this world, there is certainly a division or a world of opposites, things that oppose each other. And guilt comes for me, at least, when I think that, well, if I don't do this, that's not good. So I'd rather do it than be bad. So it says in the Course of Miracles that guilt demands punishment, and you wonder, what do you mean by punishment? Well, the belief in good and bad is punishment. That's all the punishment that you need, is the belief that there are things that oppose each other, they're different from each other. It came to me today that when Jesus says in the Course of Miracles, in the introduction, he says, I can sum up this entire course for you in 3 lines. And the 3 lines are, that which is real cannot be threatened. That which is unreal doesn't even exist. Herein lies the peace of God. Now, I realize that good and bad is in the lower levels of the mind. What is real is not even in this mind at all. What is real is in the mind of spirit, which is outside of the body. And in that world, you're either what God created as real, or it doesn't even exist. So it takes the guilt really away. It's like a backdoor to accepting the atonement. When you accept the atonement, you are saying that you never came into this world of you or me, us or them, good or bad. You remember that line where he says, do you want to be right or happy? And I like, Susan, when you said, I realized that joy is love. And that's so great. Joy and love are really, even though they're 2 different words, they're really synonymous. When you unconditional love, as you said, that's the joy of God. I choose the joy of God instead of the pain. The pain is believing that there's something other than what's real. Yeah, the pain is choosing what is unreal. Thanks for letting me share.
Thank you, Dove. Thank you for sharing. Please share again. I took notes on what you said. You are so incredibly wise. I mean, Jesus said what I got between joy and love. The fact that I said that joy and love were synonymous is because that's what I listened to on Audible today. Jesus said we could use the word joy and love interchangeably. They are synonyms.
He says that in A Course of Miracles?
It does. I was listening to it on Audible.
Oh.
I listened to the text a lot on Audible, and it said that in ACIM. Yes,
So joy, he says it in the chorus, joy and love are interchangeable.
it does.
I wasn't
I,
aware of that. Thanks.
Karen put it in the chat, text 5.
Oh,
There is no difference between love and joy.
Oh, thank you. Thank you,
Very good.
Karen. Thank you.
Karen, thank
Um,
you. Text chapter 5, introduction. Thank you.
So, whenever we are not joyful, whenever we are suffering, we have blocked the truth of who we are. Whenever we are suffering, we have given allegiance to our ego. Whenever we are suffering, we are just not in our right mind. And we cannot fight the ego because there is no ego. And if we fight the ego, we're actually giving him power. What we need to do is pray, give the pain point over to the Holy Spirit, I believe, and focus on the truth of who we are, just turn on the light. Also, whatever we see in our brother, we are empowering within ourselves, and I just went through this recently with another couple at the gym, and they did something which I won't even go into detail about, but they did something that really triggered my ego, and it was very important for me to gain validation for my anger and my grievance. That was very important. But what I realized, the more I focus on the error of my brother, the more I feel the guilt within myself. So, like Dove just said, would I rather be right or would I rather be happy? Well, my ego wants to be right. My ego wants validation. And I'm sure if I lay out this province and this problem, in a certain way, I'll get lots of validation. But is this validation really making me happy? No, because as I look past their mistake, if that was what it is, if that is what it was, and I see the beauty in them, I'm seeing reality. I'm seeing truth. I'm seeing love, and Jesus applauds this. He when I see the Christ-like nature in my brother, that is when God is so happy, because God can give his love to me. I guess that is defined in A Course in Miracles as revelation. God can give his love to me. And again, I listened to this today in A Course in Miracles on Audible. I cannot give my love to him. But what I can do is when I accept his love, I can extend his love to my brother. And that is how I empower him. That is what he wants me to do. He wants me to accept his love and extend his love to my brothers. And that's a miracle, and again, I had this little test with this couple at the gym. And again, I was very triggered. I was very irritated. I was very resentful. But I realized that that does not serve my purpose. It does not serve God's purpose. It just keeps me down in the dense, in the darkness, it keeps me down with my ego. But when I can forgive them and see the beauty in them, then I can feel the beauty and the love within myself. Thoughts?
Yeah. Yeah, I just want to say that you mentioned the word validated, and I don't remember exactly where in the sentence you use it, but that was exactly what I heard today on social media, and I agree. Someone wrote on social media today that we spend enormous amounts of time on social media wanting to be validated. That's the word that you just used, and I agree that that's true. It's the need, as Rafi says, there's only three needs: the need for approval, the need for security, or the need for wait, there's security, approval. What's the third one, anyone?
Validation?
No, well, I think the approval,
Safety, is it safety?
not safety, security. I forgot the third one,
I can't remember either, sorry.
but
Approval.
I did identify mine as approval, and approval is the same as validate. Validate and approval is the same thing.
Karen?
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Karen.
I hope my
Oh,
battery doesn't. I hope my battery doesn't die. I was just about to move my computer, but it's okay. So anyway, nice to be here. Susan, I just wanted to respond to what you just shared about your trigger. I had a similar trigger with my sister over the weekend, and what I recognized was that I am doing this to myself, and it has nothing to do with my sister. It has nothing to do with my sister's behavior. And that when I am seeing my sister as different, I'm only hurting myself, because if there is no world, there's also no one outside of my mind, including my sister, you know? So that's a tough one sometimes, but it's only my thoughts projected out, and she is just my thoughts reflected back. So, you know, looking at that and recognizing that I am never upset for the reason I think. I'm not upset because of what my sister did, her behavior. I am upset because of the way I reacted to her. She did nothing wrong. So that's very helpful to me, because it's recognizing that I'm only doing this to myself. I'm only hurting myself. I'm not hurting. We did talk, and you know, she's also a course student, so it was a nice healing that we got to talk about it. But I totally was triggered, and I still get triggered. But when I can remember to bring it back to my own mind, because it's only my own mind making a judgment, has nothing to do with anything outside of me. I'm judging against myself always. So thank you for that reminder. When you shared, that's what I thought of.
Yeah, I think we have to constantly understand that concept that there is no world. I mean, it's just such a hard idea to release. You know, I mean, I think we embody that that the fact that we believe that there's a world, and because we believe that there's a world, so much comes from it, the separation, and the fact that we feel separated, just comes from that belief that, we think that what's happening out in the world is true, and there is no world. And this is something that the Course really tries to impound on us. There are so many different lessons about the world. There is another way of looking at the world. I'm not a victim of the world I see. I loose the world from all I thought it was. I mean, the Course in Miracles is continually giving us, the tool to which to release ourselves from the world. And once we recognize that there is no world, once we realize that we don't have to become a part of the insanity the world exposes, that we are, that it's just really going on in our own mind. I think the only peace that we can eventually find is by releasing the world, because in the world there's all sorts of there's guilt, there's unhappiness, there's sickness, there's just so much that we buy into. But if we can step back and recognize it's all about us and everything is in my own mind, then there's nothing else I even have to learn. I mean, then that's really the road to peace. And I love feeling peaceful. I love the road to peace that I experience a lot of now, because I do release those odd thoughts that pop into my mind that the world is inflicting, or that I'm really pulling in. I'm really becoming attached to on my own. But when I can release that, then I'm not triggered. I'm really not. I'm just living in the world, experiencing peace, wanting to stay within that peaceful part of me. That's all there is, really. And, every time an unpleasant thought comes into my head, I do release it. I'm so aware of this unpleasant thought, whether it be something from the past, whether it's something in the future, whether it's something that arises suddenly. I'll absolutely let it go. I've learned to do that through practice, not allowing it to manifest and gnaw at me. And I can't express that enough, that I really understand the difference between peace, love, and the other side, which is fear. Everything is fear. It's not about peace, love, happiness, joy. And to stay within that aspect of who I am requires diligence. Go ahead, Gloria.
Beautiful, beautiful sharing. As you were speaking, Myrna, it was coming to me again and again. I just kept on hearing, it's a choice. It's a choice. And then when Sharon was speaking, we all get triggered. Absolutely. And then we make the choice to let go of it, or the choice to invite spirit in to help us see it differently. And when I'm going to jump to Susan, um, when we accept ourselves as we are created, then we be the extension of the love of God. But that too is a choice. And where Dove was talking about duality, which is good, bad, right, wrong, this is the ego comparisons that keep us from the love of God. And of course, it's all related to specialness, holding on to these fearful things to keep us separate from the mind of God. So when we recognize, like in the prayer, it says, if we just simply could look at the first line of this prayer, forgive us our illusions, Father, and help us accept our true relationship with you. And synchronistically, which has been happening all morning, that would lead us into where we left off last week, Susan, when we were reading. And we're up to what it says, which is nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists, and herein lies the peace of God. So that goes back to recognize the concepts don't exist. The images don't exist. They're aspects of projection, of imagination. Images deteriorate, disintegrate. So nothing real can be threatened. The love of God that I am, which is an experience of oneness, which can't be known. It can't be known with the ego thinking mind. That ego thinking mind has to be surrendered unto the joy, love, grace that we are. And that's the peace of God. So if we can just recognize that not for one moment do we even exist. All that exists is God. And that's the choice that we're making in every single moment. Am I going to choose fear? I'm going to choose love. It's a constant choice, moment to moment. Thank you.
Dove?
Dove, you're muted.
Excellent, Gloria. And you mentioned one word which I want to share on. You mentioned the word comparison. So there's a line in the Course that says the ego literally lives by comparison. So what I was talking about earlier, good or bad, right or wrong. So the ego always has to decide between two choices. It always has two choices, which are opposites. And that's what the ego does. It sees things that are different from each other, and it makes a judgment which one it likes. So that's how you get to the good, bad, right, wrong. And of course, as soon as you get into good, bad, you're into guilt. That's wrong, but this is right. And that handles that whole area that I just spoke on. What I also wanted to say is the third of the three needs of the ego, I put it up in the chat, is control. So the three needs of the ego at different times of its life is I exist and I am not responsible. But as long as I'm not responsible, I still need to feel safe, which is security, control. I don't want others to control me, And yeah, I don't exist, but I want your approval that says I do. That's the validation that Susan spoke about earlier. Thanks.
Thank you, Dove. Yeah, I love that. What you put in the chat room earlier. The three needs of our bodies is security, control, and approval, which is very similar to validation. I think so many of us want our feelings to be validated. I was having this conversation with my sister, who is not a Course in Miracles student. She was telling me how important it is for her to have her feelings validated. And I don't want to throw her under the bus. I don't want her to disagree with her, because I think there's so many of us that desire validation of our feelings. But then when you think about that, what feelings are we desiring validation of? Most of the time it's the feelings of resentment and our grievances and our quote emotions of the ego that we're desiring validation for. So, I mean, how many times do we really need validation for our empowering feelings, our joy? Like imagine that, you go to friend and you start sharing feelings, and your feeling is sharing all these joyful feelings of God, and you get, the I think the joy is easily spread, So that's really what A Course in Miracles is telling us to focus on. The Course in Miracles is telling us to focus on the good, the beautiful, the peace, love, joy, and happiness. It's again today when I was listening to Audible, I was regaining so much more knowledge. God said, A Course in Miracles says, God cannot guide us because God is knowledge. God just is. I mean, we always have two voices that we can listen to. The Holy Spirit was given to us by God, so I think the Holy Spirit can guide us throughout the day. And whenever we calm the egoic mindset, the egoic thought system, we can hear what the Holy Spirit is saying. And whenever we're listening to the guidance of the Holy Spirit, we feel the peace of God. And that's what I aspire to do as often as possible. Glorian?
I don't know if Myrna had anything to share first on that. Did you, Myrna?
No, go ahead.
I just love it. I just love this entire topic of validation. And when we recognize that validation is seeking outside of ourselves and really is an aspect of the upside down thinking, because we recognize our worth is established by God, and we only find that by looking within. So that's something to just take note of, that, we still are looking without instead of within. And the ego feelings that we want validated. Yep, call in the troops. Okay, we want other egos to approve and agree with us to make us feel validated. And once we recognize, when we let go of all of that and surrender, we move into that space through the quiet mind of the acceptance of our worth as the Christ, as we were created. So again, it just comes down to taking a look at the upside down thinking, being willing to look at the error, own it, and surrender it. Thanks so much.
Karen?
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Gloria, and thanks, Susan. And I just want to go back to what happened between my sister. And it's interesting because I was feeling excluded, and I noticed how insecure it made me feel. And Lynn Johnson pointed out to me that I wasn't feeling excluded. It was that I felt that I was judging my sister's behavior, which made me feel excluded. I was judging my sister's behavior, and she was right on. I was judging my sister's behavior. And this is something that I really had to take a look at. And I wanted validation for my part. I'm not going to go into the details, but I wanted validation. Now that you guys are mentioning it, I wanted validation for my part in the story that she was telling. And I wasn't validated. It was all, she was like the star of the show, and totally excluded me from it. And it really hurt. And so I really had to really look at that. And I remembered also what Glorian does say, that the Course says in chapter 4 that our worth is established by God. And I don't need my validation from anyone else but that. And the insecurity was only the story that I was telling myself. So it was I did start out feeling very, very excluded. And I have to say, it wasn't a good feeling. But I was really able to forgive it and look at it and recognize exactly that there is nothing outside of my own mind, nothing. And it just keeps, whatever keeps coming up, it's coming up to be healed. And I'm very grateful for that today. Thanks.
Yeah. You talk about validation, we're looking for love. And what is validation but love? That's what we seem to feel we want to be part of. We're looking for it from outside sources. But, Karen reminded me of my initial meeting at 35 years ago, when I had been studying the Course in Miracles, and I had just gotten into it. And my sister's daughter had a party, and I wasn't invited, not because there was any problem between her and I, but because I guess maybe, it wasn't even an oversight. I just felt that there were people that were invited. If they were invited, I should have been invited. And that was the exclusion that I felt. But the reason that brought back that memory, because this was some 35 years ago, is that's when I kind of I said, I just got to get help with this. I got to get help with this. I looked into the Course in Miracles, and I knew that I wanted to be a part of the Course in Miracles, to a greater degree. And at the time, we had phone books, and I went through the phone book, and I found Jeff Mironov's name in the phone book. And I said, it advertised the fact that he has classes, Course in Miracles classes. Well, I had never been to a Course in Miracles class. This was just the beginning for me. And I called him up, and he says, it just so happens we're having a meeting tonight. And he was really located not too far from me. I was on East 86th Street. He was on West 86th Street. And I went to that very first meeting, and that's when I met Susan and Lisa Natoli and Jeff Mironov and everybody else. But I bring this up because this is what I spouted. I was so hurt, and I brought that up in front of the group, first meeting. And I remember Jeff he must have used magic words or something, but I remember him saying, there's a part of you inside of you that cannot be hurt. There's a part of you that inside of you cannot be hurt. And I tell you, I think that healed me for the next 35 years, because I think of those words, really. I can't be hurt. I can't be excluded. And I was so thankful, because after that hour and a half that I spent at Jeff's initial class, I knew I wanted to be a part of it. And if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be sitting here with you today, Susan. I really wouldn't. I wouldn't even known about Pal Talk or Gather or any of this. So everything is a blessing. So that was my exclusion, turned out to be a blessing.
I remember that when I
Yeah.
first met you at Jeff Murnov's group. He was so amazing, really. He's just such a beautiful, wonderful person.
It was a
And
wonderful group.
it was. I know Lisa Natoli was there, and it's so interesting, because what you made me think of is a really funny story, because when there is something within us that has not yet been healed, we tend to focus on that in the outside world. I know Dub's birthday lesson here, lesson 132, the fourth paragraph, the world is nothing in itself. Your mind must give it meaning, and I remember once in New York City years ago, I had a history of boyfriends cheating on me. That is what I had experienced in the past. And I just remember this funny story. I was at a party with my boyfriend, and years ago, like I'm talking 20 years ago, I was at a party with an ex-boyfriend who cheated on me with another woman. So in New York City, I was determined. I just thought that my boyfriend was cheating on me at this party because it had happened in the past. So I remember I got my best friend at the time to follow my boyfriend around at this party so we could catch him cheating on me because I was sure he was cheating on me. So he would hide behind like different places so he couldn't see us watching him. But I was trying to catch him cheating on me. And you know what happened? At one point, I was sure he was like in the room with another woman. And I remember I went into the room and there was no other woman. He wasn't cheating on me. But because I had not released this pain point from the past, I was determined that it was happening now. You know, I don't know if that's a good analogy or not, but it's just so important to let go of past wounds and past mistakes. Glorian?
I love that, Susan. I mean, that's just perfect in what we're all always doing. I see only the past and I project it into what I'm seemingly seeing now. Once we recognize that we're always seeing our past, we can make the change of mind necessary to heal from it. And I just think that was a perfect example of it. And I was just going to circle back a minute to what Karen was talking about, where, it was a perfect example with her sister in that situation of I am not a victim of the world I see. Today's lesson. And she healed it and she shifted as we're supposed to use these lessons to do from a victimization consciousness to the empowerment that we get from the transformational teaching of this course. And, just by choosing to see it differently. And I had reflections this morning on it. This is how this entire course just works together. But I know you're pressed for time, Susan, so I'm going to let you take the mic. And just a recognition, though, that all of these lessons build upon each other, and we always can fall back and use what we know because this entire course to me is the miracle where everything is circular, and we have this awesome gift where we do have that way out. So thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, Glorian. And Karen put in the chat room, lesson 7, I see only the past. It is the reason why your thoughts do not mean anything. Thank you, Karen. Yeah, it's all over a course that it's so and how we release the past is by forgiving the past. You know, that's how we can uh let go of any circumstances that happened in the past that were not of love. It's through forgiveness, you know. Forgiveness is the theme of A Course in Miracles. Forgiveness is our way out of hell and into heaven. And when we forgive our brother, what we're really doing is we're forgiving ourselves because God has but one son and we're all part of the sonship. So as I forgive, as I forgive my many ex-boyfriends, I can, really experience true love and intimacy with my husband now. And that is so beautiful. And again, Karen wrote, it is the reason why you are upset because you see something that is not there. I know it was just so funny when I can remember that party. I was literally determined to catch my boyfriend in the act, but he was not cheating on me. It was something that was completely in my mind. And it's kind of nice that I can laugh about it, because it would be easy for me to condemn myself for that. But again, as A Course in Miracles says, the separation occurred when the Son of God forgot to laugh. Like it is so simple. Like if we could just laugh at all of our past mistakes, that would just really shorten our path to enlightenment and to heaven. Just we don't have to really beg God for forgiveness. God has already forgiven us. God has never condemned us. If we could just take all these mistakes we made in the past and laugh, that would be such a beautiful thing. And that's what A Course in Miracles is teaching us to do. So on that note, I am going to turn this microphone over to Myrna and to Glorian, because I have a job to get to. So thank you, thank you, thank you for joining me today, and I will see you next week.
Bye. Gonna miss you.
Thank you so much, Susan Michelle. Man, I love your stories. It's man. All right. Thank you again for
I
being
think
here.
I think Glorian and Myrna are going to continue, Len. Is that okay?
That's wonderful. I love that.
Okay. Thank you,
Aaron's
Len.
still here, and Dove's still here, and Thelma's still here. There's lots of people here who can share. So I'm going to keep it going. Thank you, Susan Michelle, and Myrna, Gloria, and Karen, whomever. The mic is all yours.
Mona, do you have anything to share?
I see only the past. What a concept when you think about that. If we never saw the past, we could never be unhappy. How could we be unhappy? Because nothing happens in the present that causes us to hold on to something. If we're constantly in the present, then there's nothing to hold on to. So the only thing we hold on to is the past. And, that's such an amazing concept when you think about it. The past is the culprit, really. And the past is what really keeps us tied to the ego's insanity. And what do we think about? And the mind is constantly going, constantly going. And to quiet the mind is really takes a lot of practice, a lot of diligence, really, because it's very hard to release a thought that makes us angry for the moment, that really gets us, gnaws at us. So, the past is, what is so hurtful, and yet why do we entertain it? Why do we stay with it? We think that it's, if no, that we're not responsible for it. That we think that these thoughts just, come, singularly or on their own, but we bring these thoughts in, and then we nurture them, and we're feeling pain, and it's all about the past. So again, the Course in Miracles does give us insight into that, and it really shows us, really, even on the most on the most, how can I put it, insignificant way, okay, that we might think is insignificant. Like, I see only the past in this pencil. I see only the past in this shoe. I see only the past in this hand. I see only the past in that body. I see only the past in that face. Everything is the past. And you have to laugh at it, really, because I guess if we didn't hold on to the past, then we wouldn't even be having these conversations. We wouldn't need to. We wouldn't need the healing. We would already have discovered that healing is only in the present. So it's really the idea of knowing that we have to understand the difference. Anything to say about that, Gloria?
Yeah, I'm gonna let Karen go first. She has her hand up, and then I'll comment.
Yeah,
Karen,
thank you.
I didn't
Thanks,
see that.
Myrna. Thanks for bringing that up. I just want to share on this lesson for a minute because it sums up the first 6 lessons. I see only the past is lesson 7. And he says in the very first paragraph, this idea is particularly difficult to believe at first, yet it is the rationale for all of the preceding ones. It is the reason why nothing you see means anything. It is the reason why you have given everything you see all the meaning it has for you. It is the reason why you do not understand anything you see. It is the reason why your thoughts do not mean anything and why they are like the things you see. It is the reason why you are never upset for the reason you think. And it is the reason why you are upset because you see something that is not there. Now that's phenomenal to me. And I have to say that when I was upset with my sister, and even what you shared, Myrna, but what was that, 30 some years ago, right?
Yeah.
30 some years ago. And the situation that I brought up with my sister was from 20 some years ago. Even though it was happening now, what I was upset about was about something that happened 20 some years ago that I brought into the present. And I just felt so invalidated. And it was ridiculous when I think about it now. So I'm so grateful that we brought that lesson up because that lesson really is very healing and very helpful because, as you said, there's only right now. And this is where the healing occurs in the present moment. So I'm really grateful that we got to read that lesson. Thank you.
Yeah. That's great, Karen. Yeah. We do bring things up from 30 years ago. I mean, that's what I think as we get older, I mean, you think about that 30 years ago, when man, it's people and people hold on to their grievances with other people, and they don't talk to each other. Families that I know that have been estranged for 30, 40 years, you know, it's all in the mind, right, Gloria?
And that's why the beauty of these lessons, it's really bringing the unconscious to the conscious. Because just what we were just saying, I mean, we don't even remember these past hurts are motivating factors in our reactions today. So it's really a gift to do these. I've been doing this workbook lessons deep dive with
Mhm.
friends, and I mean, I've been doing this for 31 years. The amount of cleansing and healing has just been absolutely tremendous. So we're always constantly meeting our consciousness, and it really is all perfect, as Karen always says. I want to go back here to the chat, and let's see. Dove, he says, you've got to laugh. Exactly. And I mean, I often say that that is so important in just taking it light is a form of being gentle with ourselves. Just being light about it, like take nothing in this world seriously. Ken Wapnick. Exactly, because the world doesn't exist. It's just a classroom showing us what we think, giving us another opportunity to change our mind and heal. Jesus doesn't like serious students. Ken, there's another one from Dove. Here's Dove again. I can either laugh now or later. Laugh now saves lifetimes later. Exactly. And this is what Jesus is talking about, saving the 1,000 years. We can continue to keep repeating these mistakes, recognizing, okay, if we just, I think it's important to recognize that the past is being projected, but also that we have the option in the holy instant to release it now. So we look and we're recognizing the past is my story. It's fictitious because it's all illusion, but it's still, I'm making it real by projecting it into my present. And then we recognize about that imagined future. If we continue along these lines, like we're saying, 30 years later, we'll continuously be projecting the same fear, hate, guilt into the future. But in the now, in the holy instant, that's the place where we have the healing. And it's so important to remember that I can choose to move into that holy instant, accept what I am as the Spirit of God, and allow the miracle in the holy instant from out of time to take place of what we seemingly see here. And just getting to that place of being above the battleground, recognizing that's our job, to be the observer, the witness, the beholder. Step back and recognize that this is a projection of fear out there, having nothing to do with the reality that I am. Then we move into that quiet mind, the changeless dwelling place. That's where the healing occurs because it comes from out of linear time into this eternal now, which is from the fourth dimensional consciousness, which is coming into entering here the miracle, the shift from fear to love in the eternal now. And it's really all it takes is quieting the incessant thinking of the ego and moving into that stillness. Thank you. Oh, Dub just said, I've got to go. Love and blessings to all. And thanks for being here with us today, Dove. We love you.
Thanks, Dove.
We love you. So, Myrna, do you have
Karen, did you want to say something? Your hand. I see your hand up.
Thank you, Glorian. And I love what you just shared. And it's true. In the holy instant, there's no past and no future. So you're not thinking about any resentments or any anger. But it's funny, Marna, what you brought up. My father's side, there were 12 kids, and there's only 3 of them left. And my uncle is one of them, the uncle that lives in the same apartment complex as me. And his sister, which is his only sister that's alive out of the 12 children, just had open heart surgery. So I just said, maybe you should send her a card. I said, she's just had open heart. So he said, okay, I'm going to send her a card, but that doesn't mean I'm making up with her. That doesn't mean that I'm not going to forget what happened. So he sent her a card, but he's not forgiving it. He's just sending a card because it's the right thing to do, but that's the end of it. And now they're getting older. I mean, she's like almost 80 now. He's in his 70s. He's the youngest. He's the baby. And it's like, how much longer does she have? Why don't you make amends? I mean, I didn't tell him what to do. I just suggested it. He said, no, I'm not. And the same with his brother that's alive. He wants nothing to do with his brother. He still holds a resentment against him. And it's just, that's exactly what you just said. It's exactly what you just said. And there's nothing we can do. And they're the lessons that these people came to learn. And there's nothing that we can do except for learn from them, and that's what I'm doing. I'm learning from them because I do not want to be like that. I do not want to be like that. Life is way too short for that. But it's kind of funny in a way. Thanks.
Doesn't the Course say, I mean, it says that we can say we forgive, okay, and we think we're sacrificing, and we kind of pat ourselves on the back that I'm the good one, I'm forgiving, but we're really not forgiving. You have to really learn to forgive. That also made inroads within me when I picked up the Course in Miracles, realizing, am I really forgiving? Did I really forgive that person, or am I just kind of just giving it lip service? So that's a very big thing. To truly forgive is a big thing, because once you do forgive, then there's nothing there. You don't even remember really what it was that you were upset about. I lived it. I know it. That's exactly what happens. You have to truly forgive, and then everything is rosy again. But I remember to, I just want to add one more thing, and then I want to hear from you too, Gloria, you have your hand up, but what did I want to say about that? I don't know, I lost my train of thought. Go ahead, Gloria.
Just quickly, I was going to say, I love what you shared there, Myrna, because we recognize that the ego really cannot forgive. If we're forgiving with our ego, it's forgiveness to destroy. I'm going to forgive you because I'm better than you. It really has to move into that space of surrender, where true forgiveness is really the willingness to not judge, because that's where then we're ceasing to project the ego thought system out there on the world. So to me, forgiveness and non-judgment are kind of the same thing. True forgiveness, complete forgiveness. But when we were sharing before about the lesson, just recognizing I'm not a victim and I can take responsibility. The workbook lesson, My Grievances Hide the Light of the World from Me, is tremendous. It's taking responsibility that I'm the one holding the grievance that's obscuring the light of the world, the Christ experience from me. And I'm doing this to myself. I think I worked with that lesson once and the next one after it for like 6 months, because it's really about the responsibility for sight. And once you're willing to take that responsibility, you are no longer a victim pointing the finger out there. You did this to me. No, we're always doing it to ourselves. Thanks so much.
I just want to add to what you said about the lesson, Gloria. And so I am not a victim of the world I see is for me also, I am not a victim of the world I made. I made this world. I made it up, just like thoughts or images I have made. So just like with true forgiveness, what I'm learning is that there's really nothing to forgive out there if there's nobody out there, like Myrna was saying, there's nobody out there, there is no world, then there's nothing to forgive. But if there's nothing outside of my mind, then there's nothing outside of my mind to forgive. The only thing that I need to forgive is my thoughts about it, that my thoughts are what are really upsetting me. It's my thoughts that are creating the world that I see. So when I look at that lesson, it's I am not a victim of the world I made. I made it up, I made the story up, and I can give it over to the Holy Spirit for a different interpretation. And it was just like at Glorian's meeting today. I didn't like the way that Joel said, with a, you get like a knife and you cut out all these grievances with the knife. And I'm paraphrasing what he said, but he said it was a scalpel. He used a scalpel, and Lynn said, that is because I was more thinking like that's not gentle to me. I don't like that. Now, why would I want to cut it out with a knife? And Lynn said that it's actually a scalpel and it's precision, so it is gentle. It's like when you do a surgery, you're doing it perfectly and gently and precision. So I was able to see it differently, and then Glorian said the vigilance. It's vigilance. It's more like the vigilance of that, not oh my God, cutting it out with a knife. Are you kidding me? Like, I couldn't relate to that at all until I saw it another way because I said something and then it was explained to me another way. So when we're able to communicate and see things another way, it changes everything. So that was really that I appreciated that today.
I just want to say quickly, I love that. And that is an example of how I'm giving everything all the meaning that it has for me. And words are symbols, and everything that we use here is a symbol. And we always have that opportunity to look at it differently. Myrna, back to you.
I'm good. It's 2 o'clock, so I think we're over.
Okay. Well,
Thank
thank you.
you. This was great. It really was. I
Oh, I
love
love it. Thank
connecting.
you. Glad you joined us too, Karen. Thank you, everybody. And Dove, and this has been wonderful.
Oma.
Thanks you guys so very much. And thanks for hanging in here and taking over when Susan left. All just perfect, and I love it. So
Good. It's
thank you,
all
thank you.
good.
Have a joyous day, everyone.
Absolutely. And see some of you tomorrow morning for our Saturday morning, which I think will be a lot of fun too. So that's 11:30 Eastern time.
Bye.
So good. Thanks, Lynn.